It's the Gamesight podcast.
Welcome to the first ever episode of the Gamesight podcast. Woo! Do you guys want to introduce yourselves and your roles in Gamesight?
Sure. I'm Zall. I am head of customer success here at Gamesight. Been working in the games industry for a long time and have a pretty strong background in esports and the FGC. That's why I'm here today. But that's me.
And I'm Michael Shields. I am a SDR here, a sales representative at Gamesight. I've been here for, today will mark my fourth month. This is my first job in the gaming industry, and I'm really embracing it all and taking it all in. And I think my passion for fighting games, and I think my constant, I would say my chirp in the ears of the sales team is probably why I'm here as well.
And on that note, I actually invited you guys today because I thought y'all would be the perfect guests to talk about the fighting game community. I also love Super Smash Bros. And stuff like that.
Smash is not a fighting game.
Oh, we can talk about that.
True. It's not.
Because I know it's a platformer, right? That's what it's considered, right? Technically,
a platform fighter. So is Multiverses.
Multiverses, yeah. But then Multiverses is a fighting game, right?
I think that the FGC has just they're a part of the FGC. Even if they're not because there's 3D fighters, there's 2D fighters, there's platform fighters. They're all fighters, whatever. Yeah. It's just they're not I don't know. It's just a fun meme.
It's a fun meme. Yeah. That's my only experience, man. Back in community college, my one friend, he would literally carry a CRT in the trunk of his car and set it up during lunch every day. We would just play Smash. It was awesome. That was my introduction. Went to my first weekly, got really scared, did not play. But it was still fun, yeah. Anyways.
Melee is scary.
Melee is really scary. I will say.
People are way too good at that game. It's insane.
I just thought your guys' stories would be super interesting to hear since you guys both have a lot of experience. Do you guys want to just share how you got started?
I used to do help with tournament organization in my local area for League of Legends tournaments and stuff.
So you were the TO.
I wasn't fully organizing tournaments, but I was helping organize. I was running brackets and stuff and just making sure people did what they were supposed to do.
I would count that as a TO, so
sure. But I'm not I wasn't the cool person that is in charge of the whole thing. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, so then I did that, and I was really anticipating the release of MKX, and I was so excited. MKX being Mortal Kombat X. I was so excited for that, and I was I wonder if there's tournaments for this. I don't know if there is, but I would love to put something together one of these days, and when the game comes out, I wanna try. I wanna get involved in that scene. And I ended up finding out about Evo because I used to stream, and I had someone come into my chat and be like, "Yo, are you going to Evo?" And I was like, I don't know what that is. Why don't you tell me? Why don't you tell me what that is, and then I can tell you whether or not I would be interested in going. And they told me that it was this great, this huge tournament in Vegas, and that there was all the major fighting games were there, and that MKX was going to be there. And I went to my first Evo in 2015, and it was after I did that, there was no turning back. It was just a thing that I had to do every year. Just go to Evo, go to a bunch of different events, try to attend as many majors as possible, and do various things. I was competing, I was trying to do commentary. I helped with brackets and stuff like that, more locally with that, and did interviews with people and just a bunch of random things at these events, and it was super fun.
That's super cool. All right, how about you, Michael?
It's my background in fighting games is more on the casual side of things. I always grew when I was growing up. One things that brought me and my family together were fighting games. So my very first fighting game was Street Fighter 2 on the Sega Genesis, and I don't know if you recall, Jen, but on the Sega Genesis, they had two controllers. They had the one with 3 buttons, and they had the one with 6 buttons. And I had Street Fighter 2 with 3 buttons. and that was horrible because it was a 6-button fighter. But I used to go back and forth with my uncles, and like they used to bring their friends over and go crazy, and they do like round robin. So whoever wins stay on, and they just go around the room. And it came to the point where I was starting to win a lot more, and then I think that's where I fell in love with like fighting games. And so since then, since like childhood, I've always kind of had fighting games as my main genre as far as video games are concerned. And I have competed, like I competed in like a couple of like local tournaments, whatever, in like Street Fighter Alpha and things like that, but nothing too crazy as far as the competitive side. My main thing with like fighting games is like breaking down the barrier of like it's not as sweaty or as hard as people may think it is. It's just a matter of like you putting the time in, and that's what I even today. That's what I kind of just build my whole entire like thing around is just that entry level to like intermediate level of like fighting game players. So
That's amazing. I mean, for me, like especially being like a girl, and I'm like new to fighting games. Like the first time I went to a weekly tournament, right, I was intimidated. I was like, oh, like, am I allowed to be here? Like I'm the only girl here. I think that's a really great goal. Yeah. Do you guys have any like maybe favorite experiences or like maybe big moments you got to witness or like big gaming moments that mean a lot to you?
I think there's a couple for me. One of them ones that I think was pretty important for me was there's this tournament called KIT, which is in Tennessee. And I went there and was just like, having a good time. And at the time I had been putting on a weekly event for women in the Mortal Kombat community.
That's so cool, yeah.
And commentating it because like you said, it's a little intimidating when you first get started as a woman in the FGC. And so that was like something that I had been working on for like months and months and months at this time. And the person who was supposed to do top 8 commentary ended up making top 8 in Mortal Kombat. So they couldn't do commentary and they were looking for another commentator. And I was like, well, I could do it. And they put me on the mic to do like top 8 commentary at KIT. And it was so much fun. I was so nervous and like I had such a good time, but that's probably something that stands out to me. It was just like this like one random thing where I just in the right place at the right time. And there's some really nice people there that vouched for me, which was really cool.
That's crazy. So if we look up like top 8 KIT right now, we'll find you commentating.
Yeah, for MKX, yeah, you would find it. It's not the best commentary I've done. I'll be completely honest. I was very nervous. I was so uncomfortable, but it was really fun and it was really good experience. And I ended up getting like some really cool gigs afterwards, doing things
cool.
like commentating E-League or actually I did that twice, I think, commentated E-League and like a couple other smaller ones as well, just like online events. So it was really fun.
Yeah, that's super cool. Also, because when I see people commentating video games, when it's a woman, that means a lot to me personally, right? It's like, dang, like she knows what she's talking about. Like, what's up? So I love that. What about you, Michael?
For me, because I play on the more, like I said, the casual side, less competitive, I stream a lot of fighting games. Like every Friday I stream fighting games. If I don't know what to play, I'm probably playing fighting games. And I think the commentary that I had with myself or with my friends while playing fighting games got me in a position to do commentary spot over the summer, just out of nowhere. And it was a tournament called Reset Resort, sponsored by Junk Food Arcade. And it was for multiverses, and I got to do the multiverses spot. And it was hilarious because again, I don't know what these moves are called, what they doing, and anything. I just know like I was just making up words like Bugs Bunny doing the chicken wing on the airplane with the rocket, like. And I just think that's the type of thing like they put me on to do anyway. But that was like a highlight for me. That was like, yo, I could probably do this with the fighting game community. Like I could do commentary.
That sounds hype. Dang, you guys have both done commentary. That's pretty cool. That's a great segue into our next section. So there have been a lot of like fighting games coming out recently. Like the community is going strong. So what's your guys' like favorite game right now, honestly? Or like who do you think is like maybe running the community the best?
I think Multiverses is doing a really good job right now.
Yeah.
I think, they have like an amazing community manager who is like really engaged with the community and is trying to just like really create this like sense of like core creators, which I love. I love it when like devs and publishers take the time to actually care about their community in a way that's like engaging. And I think they're just doing such a good job. Even the devs themselves, they're very communicative about the things that they're working on, and they're starting to get to that celebrity status on Twitter, which is a little like I feel bad for them almost. But it seems like everything is going really well for them, and so that's what I would say.
Yeah, for sure. And just to kind of piggyback on that, the community manager and developers are very transparent on Twitter. And one thing that I like about them the most is that like if there are complaints, they take it in and they just don't go rush to change things. They give an explanation like, okay, I understand that you're feeling this way, but here's why I'm not going to change it. Like that's the thing. Like like that transparency and that willingness to like stand on your ground of like, this is my game, this is my vision, and just kind of stay there with it is like very important to me, because not to go off topic too much, but like Mass Effect 3 still sticks out in my head of like us as gamers feeling so entitled to be like, well, I don't like the ending, so change that. So like to see a developer kind of stand their ground and be like, no, this is how it's supposed to be, it means a lot to me. My favorite fighting game right now, I guess the game that I'm playing the most is Guilty Gear Strive. But I have been playing a lot of this JoJo's Bizarre Adventure since it came out, even with the bad netcode. And it's a lot of fun. I love JoJo, so like I'm gonna play it anyway. But if I had to choose like who has like the best community, for me it's a tie between Skullgirls and Them's Fighting Herds. I've never heard anything negative coming from the Them's Fighting Herds community. And that's maybe I'm just not looking for it, but I mean, how can you be upset with a game with fighting ponies? Like, I don't know.
I've never even heard of that game.
It's fun. It's really fun. You should try it. I think you'd like it. You can pick it up.
I like how Jen's like, yeah, I know this game.
I do. I've never played it, but I do know of it. Another thing actually is Street Fighter 6, like with everything that's coming out, I just keep on seeing all this like excitement for it, and I'd love to see that. I'm also very excited for Street Fighter 6. I don't really have like a specific fighting game that I'm playing right now because I just haven't really had something that's like holding on to my attention, but I am very excited for Street Fighter 6 when it releases.
Same.
Should we just talk about what we're doing with Street Fighter 6?
So we work with Capcom creators and we get to do some really fun things with them. I can't really say too much what's coming down the pipeline, obviously, but yeah, I'm really happy with how we've been able to use the relationships with like Capcom and us, and also the community, to create some really fun initiatives and whatnot, and to also just have a connection with the community and be able to help them out and help them grow as creators has been really, really fun and positive.
Yeah, I think that's sort of the secret in 2022 in the modern age to get your game to succeed, right? You want to build a community, and like you guys said, this communication is like what's really important. What do you guys think makes the fighting community so special? Like, what do you think makes it what it is, right? Compared to so many other different game genres.
The fighting game community is great because when it's all said and done, we all are like looking out for each other. We all love the game. We all want to get better, and we all like to just show and share our knowledge for the most part. There are the like small pockets of toxicity within it, but I mean, that in comparison to the amount of good that the fighting game community does, because like fighting games are like, to me, it's like a language. You get to learn a lot about somebody else by the way they, even the character they pick, how they play you, how they approach you. Like, I bet you if me and Jen played a game of like Mortal Kombat right now, we would learn so much about each other, you know? And it's just like that constant game of like, what is this person going to do? And just trying to get to know them, I think was what makes it so great. And I think that's that's the glue that kind of holds the community together.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with that. I think you can learn a lot about people by the way that they play fighting games and what they choose. Also, I just think that the fighting game community has this sense of like grassroots that is unmatchable in like any other esports kind of space, where, you know, like you see like these huge competitions happening like for LCS and stuff like that, and those are such amazing productions. They do such a good job. And then you go to a fighting game event and it's like it's a completely different vibe. It's like not at all the same thing. You know, people are sitting together with like professional players, and you have, you know, you can literally like touch the stage. It has this just like very like authentic kind of overly genuine feeling. And I think that also goes into kind of into count when, like what you said, Michael, where, you know, everyone just kind of like feels like almost like they're looking out for each other. And I think it's just because of that kind of like grassrootsy feeling. It's like everyone's kind of more equal, and there's not as many like celebrities. Like there are some celebrities, but it's a completely different vibe, and it's just very unique and very niche. I think like not everyone wants that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But it's also what makes the fighting game community kind of like stand out on its own in its own little world. And also because there's multiple fighting games at all of these events, right? It's not one tailored, it's not like one tournament for one tailored game. It's like a ton of different games, and a lot of people compete in more than one thing because a lot of the skills transfer over from one game to the other, just like, you know, your fundamentals, your footsies. And so there's like it's like a different, it's a little bit different. It's just a completely different experience than anything else that I've encountered in the space.
Honestly, that's beautiful. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that like visualization. Actually, Michael, have you been to Evo yet?
I haven't. I was so jealous. I'm going next year. I'm going to Evo. I'm going to Evo next year. I'm going to TwitchCon next year. I'm going everywhere next year. I don't care. I got to talk to my wife and be like, yo, baby, I'm sorry. I got to go. Maybe not both. Maybe one of those two. I'm being a little bit pie in the sky right now. So.
Actually, how was Evo this year? It's the first one back, right, since the pandemic.
It was really good. Actually, there was kind of like a change up in the like management of the event. So things were a little bit different than previous years. But they did an amazing job. Like Rick, the person who kind of just like took over, he puts on also this event called Combo Breaker, which is like one of the other like really good like Grassroots, just like everyone in the FGC loves it. And I think he took some of the really their team. I'm not going to give, like, I'm sure there was more than one person that made these calls, but their team just like took a lot of the like things that make the FGC special and then added it back into Evo, which was really great. And they also added like a ton of booths that you could go walk through. So it was a lot more spectator friendly, where I didn't compete in anything. This is my first Evo, like not competing in anything. And I just wandered around and had like such a great time, which isn't historically, that's not like, I expected to be kind of like, you know, sitting and watching a lot, and that's what I would do. But there was so much to do. They had like the entire area for arcade games. They had like a huge artist alley that I spent way too much money on art in. And they had like casual areas and little side tournaments and stuff playing as well. There was a lot of like proper booths where you could go see people's games or like people's products and stuff as well. And it was more of a blend between a tournament and a convention than it has in the past. So yeah, I think this year's Evo was probably the best one that I've attended, actually. And I thought it was just like amazing.
All right, glowing reviews. We got to go next year, Michael.
Yeah. And then like, even, again, to piggyback on another thing that Jen was talking about, it's like, even watching from home, it felt different. I watched so much of the tournaments this year than I probably have any other Evo. It was so like captivating. Like my wife was watching. It's like, oh, you play this game, don't you? Like, yeah, I play this game. Not like this, but I play this game. Like the Tekken this year was, oh my goodness. It was like edge of your seat. It was great.
All right. So talking about fighting game communities, what do you guys think is important to prioritize when you're trying to market like games to them?
I think understanding how the community is not the same as like other communities is really important. There's like a different mentality. And also there's a very, very, very vocal online like esports fan presence. But at the same time, one of the things that fighting games always struggle with is making games friendly to casuals and just people who are just trying to play the game, because they are a high execution kind of like, it's really frustrating when you get started and you don't know what you're doing, and then you just get completely destroyed by someone online. There's like the skill gap and like the learning curve can feel really hard, especially with some of the older games. But a lot of devs are working really hard to kind of bridge that gap in between. And so one of the things that I would like to see more of is people in the like marketing departments of all these various different games finding ways to bridge the gap between the casual community and the esports community, because there's a lot of really cool learning that you can do as like a casual player and just pick these things up. And with the way that the trend is where the games are becoming more kind of beginner friendly at the very entrance, like at their very entrance into the game, those types of like learnings can be really good for those beginner players. But also it's really good for the esports scene because it gets people excited about like the quality of content and the level of like gameplay that they can find online. Because as someone who until 2015 didn't know that there was tournaments for fighting games, but have been playing fighting games my whole life, I feel like that's a big miss. Like that was a big miss. Like how did I not know that these things existed? And so like bridging the gap is going to be like really beneficial, I think. I don't know. That's just like my own little rant, but
yeah, I think you have to market. You can't just have like the pros in mind in that regard. Like as far as fighting games are concerned, when you're marketing, because you never know which of these influencers that may not play fighting games as a main game is like a pocket savant at these games. Like I use an example like Big Cheese, KIT just changed his name back to Big Cheese. His main game is Tetris. He plays Call of Duty. And like once every 2 months, he'll put on Street Fighter and he'll body people. And it's like people like him who are very entertaining that don't usually play fighting games that you just might have missed because you didn't know. That's the type of people like I think we you can't sleep on. And I was playing Jury against him. I was like, what this Tetris 2 gonna do to me? And he smoked me. He smoked me. He really did on stream. But yeah, I think
clip it.
It's already clipped. I'll get it for you. But it's like things like that, much to Jen's point, without that casual part or that casual chunk of fighting games in particular, if fighting games developers aren't marketing towards the casual like Street Fighter 6 is, and I'm pretty sure Tekken 8 probably will as well. Like even Tekken 7 had like shortcuts you could do by pressing like LB and a button. I think it'd be a real missed opportunity because part of what keeps people from playing fighting games is the difficulty, is the execution part of it. And if you kind of like find the middle ground in that where like you can do cool stuff, or if you can make your game where you can mash and still like do cool stuff, I think you pull in a lot more. I don't know. That's just me. I'm ranting though.
Yeah, I think it's about bridging the gap because you don't want to take the skill level like cap all the way down for anything, because then you kind of alienate, like you just say like this isn't important to us anymore. You're taking a huge piece of your community out, and that huge piece of the community is also what builds like longevity in the title. But casuals are really important for game sales, so you can't just like rely on your esports community to be the only people to purchase your game without that being like really detrimental to the return on what you're putting out there. So finding a way to bridge the gap. One thing I keep on talking about like League of Legends, because I think Riot does a really good job at esports in general. I think they do a really good like job at they market their esports tournaments within their platform, and they make sure that people know that like, hey, if I'm just going to jump on and play League with my friends at nighttime, laugh and not know what I'm doing, then I still get to see the fact that there's some people out there that play this game at a level that is insane. Yeah. And that I can potentially learn how to be better by just watching videos or by seeing the builds that they create. And so I would like to see some of that also funneling back into the FGC, where there's more support for the esports community within their own actual games, and also vice versa. Having like beginner events are really fun, and they help build like that, like beginners tournaments. They're always hard for people who are really good at the game to watch, because you see like a lot of bad things, but at the same time they help people get that like taste of competition and want to kind of like push towards something bigger and to improve. And they're just like a blast for everyone that is able to be there, and more support in learning things like really good like practice modes or videos of like how to understand frame data, or how to do a whiff punish, or like all these just like random things that like people can do to support like the growth of the players in their game. I think bridging the gap is really important, and finding also healthy ranked matchmaking as well, so that you're not like jumping into ranked and then like as a beginner and fighting like a professional player in your first set. There's like a lot of things that kind of take into consideration like a healthy trajectory of someone's growth as a fighting game player, and focusing on those things is really important.
Again, those beginner tournaments are great. They're great for the community as well, because I can't remember what company produced it. I think it was, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was AT&T, where they had a bunch of like these top streamers play Street Fighter 5 in a tournament for like 100K. And I think like Tim the Tapman was in it as well. They didn't know what they were doing. And we were all on Twitter like, yeah, he's going to take it. Just mash A. Like that type of stuff is hype, because like you get to see people experience what you experienced for the first time, kind of like in third person. It's like, oh, well, this does that, this with that. And it just like, it's so good for like the community. And I think that's the type of thing we want to have for it moving forward. Like just make it more welcoming to beginners. And I don't want to, what I said was being misconstrued, but it's like, I don't want it to like take all of the execution away, because like if somebody can do like a TOD with Zato and Guilty Gear, like you earn that, like you know how to do that. Like somebody should be able to pick up like Ramathal and just mash buttons and go crazy. So, and they do.
Wants to learn. I kind of feel like the way you guys talk about it is sort of like somebody who wants to learn like music or like photography or sort of like a creative hobby, and it's all about like looking up resources, learning from friends. So and then there's a high skill cap, so I really like that. But like what you guys said is the game devs should also provide more resources, is sort of what I'm hearing. Because like, what do you guys sort of hope for the future of the fighting game community, or like maybe what do you hope to see from the community or the devs or anything like that?
I think that devs are already moving in the direction of bridging the gap, and it's really obvious that they recognize that this is something that needs to be done. So I'm actually really excited for the future of fighting games, because I think that this is kind of like one of those turning points that we get to learn about whether or not it's going to work, first of all. And second of all, we get to see more people funneling into the fighting game, more casuals asking questions, more discords getting started where, people are asking for advice and like, hey, I don't know how to do this. Can you help me with that? And more friendships being built. I think at some point, there's going to be another transition in the fighting game community where the whole grassroots thing is not going to really work anymore for like large scale tournaments. And I think that's something that those of us who have been around for a bajillion years are going to reluctantly have to accept. But at the same time, I would really, really, really like to see fighting game community as a whole just try to figure out a way to maintain some of that authenticity and the like grassroots feel while still being able to bridge into like bigger and better and more exciting opportunities and bringing more people in. It's a challenge to grow something at the rate that I think is necessary for keeping their competitive community alive, especially with like esports is a challenge in general, let alone with the fighting game community. I think the fighting game community has a hard time with esports just because there's not as much money there. It's a little bit tricky to maintain the sponsorship. It's harder to put events on. So there's just a lot of challenges and hurdles that we face as a community that we are going to have to do get some really smart people together and try to come up with a good positive way of overcoming those things without losing what makes the FGC special. But also for the people who've been around for such a long time to just be welcoming and to like be open to teaching people and
for sure
to keep putting out educational content and keep that open mind of like, hey, I want to teach you guys, like my audience, how to do this thing, and like sharing their information and sharing their tech, because I love those. I love that content so much. I just like, it's so helpful for a lot of people.
And I for the future of like fighting games for me, and I'm coming from the more casual side, like anything that can kind of motivate people to pick them up and stick with them is probably good. And I know that's really broad, but like it's kind of like Jen was saying, like when I was growing up playing fighting games, there were no Kizzy K's, there were no even Justin Long now, like there were no like instructional videos on like, hey, this is how you play this character, this is how you approach this character, there's the motivations for this character. There wasn't anything like that for me. And then like fast forward to like 2012, where it's like all of these content creators are coming out of the woodwork and they're all providing good information and information that I still use. And I think if what you're going to see moving forward is a lot more of content creation and hype built around video games, because fighting games in particular, because these past 3 years have been really good for fighting games. And moving forward, we got a good lineup coming up, and games that we thought were dead are being reborn with, rollback netcode, which is a huge deal, especially in the climate that we're in, where we're all just like in our houses and not actually going to many locals or going out. Like we're all playing online now for the most part. And I think like I never would have thought like I would be playing Samurai Showdown ever again. And now here we go with rollback, and I'm hyped for it. Something like invigorate people that you wouldn't normally see play fighting games. And I think that's kind of like where I've always stood with them, because playing fighting games with my uncles for a long time, and then I started winning, and they was like, I don't want to play this no more. I want to play Madden or something like that. Like, and so then I didn't really have anybody to play fighting games with, like seriously, or grow or be competitive with. Maybe what's 2022 into 2020, when I was like, the pandemic hit and I was stuck inside, and I had to meet people like online to play them regularly. Like, of course you'd play like online and ranked and stuff like that, but you don't link up with them and learn stuff from them as you would like a training partner. So I'm thinking like anything that can invigorate people to pick it up and stick with it, it'd be great.
All right, hear me out. Voice comms. That'll help the community. What do you guys think?
No, you do not want to hear what I'm saying when I'm getting blown up. You do not. If I jump in and I know I messed up and you catch me with an anti-air, oh Lord.
Voice comms are dangerous in fighting games. People get really salty. And also there's it's like a different level of salt that's just like you have a 90-second, you have a 90-second round or whatever, like 90-second game. You don't have the time to think. So whenever people get salty when they're playing fighting games, it's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. It's no voice comms. Well, I mean, actually, a lot of them have voice comms, but you can turn them off at least. Yeah,
I turn them off.
I always turn them off. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, do you guys want to do any self promo? Maybe plug your Twitch streams or anything like that? Just like no. Michael's also like no.
Nah, my stuff is crazy. I'll leave that. I'll have y'all find it on your own.
I'm too toxic. I'm way too toxic.
I feel that.
Jen came to one of my streams, and I'm like, oh no. Uh-oh. She's like, pretend I'm not here. I was like, okay.
All right, I'll drop in sometime too. I'll just lurk. So you guys.
Thank you for listening to the Gamesight podcast.